They trained their whole lives to make it to the NHL, but they never got to finish their final game. Some were rising stars, others were legends, but all were taken far too soon, in moments no fan could have seen coming, from deadly collisions and haunting disappearances, to a neck injury caught on camera and a suicide that shocked the sports world. These are the 8 most tragic NHL player deaths during their careers. And chances are you've never heard the full story. Number 1. Bill Barilo, the vanishing champion. Bill Barilo was just 24 when he scored what would become the most iconic goal of his short career, clinching the Stanley Cup for the Toronto Maple Leafs in 1951. Just a few months later, Barilo went on a fishing trip in northern Ontario with a friend and never returned. The small float plane disappeared in what seemed like thin air. For 11 long years, the wreckage was missing. Rumors swirled. Some believed it was foul play. Others thought it was a freak accident. When the wreckage was finally discovered in 1962. Eerily, it was the same year the Leafs won their next Stanley Cup, sparking the legend of the Curse of Barilo. His story became immortalized in songs, books, and folklore, a promising defenseman lost at his peak. Number 2. Bill Masterton, the helmet that came too late. In January 1968, Bill Masterton, a center for the Minnesota North Stars, was carrying the puck through the offensive zone when he was checked hard by 2 players from the Oakland Seals. The impact wasn't illegal, but it sent Masterton flying backward, his head slamming into the unforgiving ice. He wasn't wearing a helmet. Almost no one was at the time. Blood poured from his ears and nose. Teammates said he whispered "never again" before slipping into unconsciousness. 2 days later, he was gone. The incident sparked a slow-burning conversation around mandatory helmet use, but it would take the NHL over a decade to enforce it. Today, the Bill Masterton Trophy honors players who show perseverance and dedication, but his legacy is also a haunting reminder of how long it can take to make change in pro sports. Number 3. Terry Sachuk, a goalie haunted by demons. Terry Sachuk wasn't just a legend, he was arguably the greatest goalie of his era. With over 400 career wins and 4 Stanley Cups, his resume was elite. But behind the mask, Sachuk battled depression, chronic pain, and isolation. In the late 60s, after bouncing between teams and grappling with injuries, he found himself living with Rangers teammate Ron Stewart. An argument over unpaid bills turned into a physical fight. Sachuk suffered internal injuries and required multiple surgeries. He died weeks later. The court ruled it an accident, but the truth was more complicated. Sachuk's life was filled with emotional turmoil, untreated mental health issues, and a league that had little regard for its players' well-being. His death marked the end of a career built on grit and the beginning of an overdue conversation about what goalies endure. Number 4. Tim Horton, a Titan lost to speed and silence. To most Canadians, Tim Horton is a household name because of the donut chain, but hockey fans know he was a physical, relentless defenseman who played over 1,400 NHL games. In 1974, after a late-night game and nursing several injuries, Horton drove a sports car, given to him as an incentive by the Buffalo Sabres GM, through the darkness, likely under the influence. Reports confirmed his blood alcohol level was double the legal limit. His car flipped multiple times, ejecting him from the vehicle. He was pronounced dead on arrival. Horton had played with broken jaws and ankles, all without modern pain relief or protection. His death stunned a nation and underscored the growing concern over how the NHL treated its aging stars. Number 5. Steve Kasan, the warning no one could stop. Steve Kasan was a veteran defenseman for the Carolina Hurricanes. After a playoff elimination in 1999, teammates gathered for a somber party. Many offered Kasan a ride home. He refused. What followed was a high-speed crash that ended his life. He wasn't wearing a seatbelt. His blood alcohol content was well over the legal limit. He left behind a wife and 3 children. His teammates, some of whom tried to stop him, were left with lifelong guilt. The tragedy raised serious questions about the NHL's support systems for players dealing with stress, alcohol, and trauma after crushing losses. Number 6. Derek Buggard, the silent toll of an enforcer. Derek Buggard was beloved by fans for his role as the NHL's ultimate enforcer, a towering presence who protected teammates and dropped gloves on command. But each fight took a toll. Repeated concussions, chronic pain, and a growing addiction to painkillers turned his off-ice life into a battle. Despite entering rehab, Buggard died from an accidental overdose in 2011. He was just 28. After his death, an autopsy revealed he had chronic chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, a degenerative brain condition linked to repeated head trauma. His death was a wake-up call to the league, igniting a reckoning over the role of fighting, pain management, and the long-term health of players forced to be warriors. Number 7. Adam Johnson, the skate that changed everything, 2023. In 2023, Adam Johnson, a former Penguins player skating for the Nottingham Panthers in the UK, suffered a horrific accident mid-game. An opponent's skate came up during a collision and sliced his neck. Johnson collapsed on the ice as players and fans watched in horror. Despite emergency aid, he passed away soon after. He was just 29. His death reignited global discussions about neck protection and mandatory safety gear. Conversations eerily similar to what happened after Bill Masterton's death 55 years prior. But this time, the footage was everywhere. The shock was immediate and the lesson was unavoidable. Number 8. Konstantin Colts, a goodbye with no warning, 2024. In 2024, the hockey world was stunned when former Penguins winger and Belarus national coach Konstantine Colts died by suicide in Miami. He was just 42. Colts was known for his speed on the ice and his quiet leadership off it. He was dating tennis star Aryna Sabalenka at the time of his death. Friends said he showed no signs of distress. His suicide raised urgent questions about how mental health is addressed not just during a player's career, but after the spotlight fades. Like so many athletes, Koltsov carried the invisible weight of a life lived in the public eye, with few outlets to talk about what came next. Number 9. Pelle Lindbergh, the star who never slowed down. Pelle Lindbergh wasn't just good, he was electrifying. The Swedish goaltender took the NHL by storm in the early 80s, becoming the first European-born goalie to win the Vezina Trophy in 1985. He was just 25 years old and the future of the Philadelphia Flyers. But Lindbergh lived life as fast off the ice as he did in the crease. On November 10th, 1985, after a night out celebrating with teammates, Lindbergh got behind the wheel of his Porsche. Intoxicated, he was speeding down a New Jersey road when he lost control and slammed into a wall. He never regained consciousness and was declared brain dead the next day. His organs were donated, the Flyers locker room was silent, the league was stunned, and his death ignited one of the earliest public reckonings in hockey with drinking culture and personal accountability. What made it harder to accept was just how bright his future looked. Lindbergh was already a star, and many believed he'd become an all-time great, but in a single moment, it was gone. Number 10. Luc Bourdon, the dream that died on the highway. Luc Bourdon was almost there, a top defenseman for Team Canada at the World Juniors, a first-round pick by the Vancouver Canucks, a big-bodied mobile blue liner with raw talent and sky-high potential. But on May 29, 2008, just after wrapping up his first full NHL season, Bourdon decided to take his new motorcycle for a ride near his hometown in New Brunswick. He never came back. A transport truck crossed his path. Bourdon couldn't avoid it. The crash was instantaneous. He was only 21 years old. Teammates described him as a gentle giant, humble, funny, and deeply loved. The tragedy rocked the Canucks organization and reignited the conversation about young players, wealth, and risk, specifically the dangers of high-speed vehicles and lack of mentorship. Bourdon was on the brink of breaking out as a full-time NHLer. His death wasn't just the loss of a life, it was the loss of what could have been a franchise cornerstone. They weren't just athletes, they were warriors, brothers, sons, husbands, friends. They had the talent to dominate games and the humanity to inspire millions. But in the pursuit of greatness, some of them paid the ultimate price. For some, it was a single freak accident. For others, it was a slow unraveling of body and mind. Behind the locker room doors, away from the cheering crowds, one thing connects them all. They didn't get to finish their story. We celebrate goals, fights, championships, but we rarely stop to think about what happens after the final whistle, the pain they carry, the silence they live with, the cracks that no helmet can protect. These 8 players remind us that hockey is more than a game. It's a test of endurance, not just physically, but emotionally. And sometimes, that test is too much. It's not just about remembering how they played, it's about remembering who they were.